Hello, Maverick Traders. This is Rob Reinhold, and it is October 4th, 2022. Today, we had really just a one-way market, and it was like that from the overnight session. We had just bullishness price action across the board. And if you can see, S&P up 3%, the world index up 3.39%, cryptos up 3.5%, and oil up 3.7%. So you can see pretty much everything right there was a 3% move across the board. It was not a complex day. It just went up and stayed up. We started off, as I said, strong overnight with rallies in Asia and Europe. That was definitely helped by a sell-off in the dollar. The dollar had a pretty decent sell-off today. And then we got some news out of the US today that the JOLTS job postings had dropped below estimates. It was supposed to be for about 11 million, and there was only 10 million JOLTS job openings. Now, this is very significant because Chairman Powell said in his press conference that as long as these stay high, the Fed is going to stay aggressive. They targeted these JOLTS job openings, and when these job openings start to come lower, then all of a sudden people think that the Fed may back off from their very hawkish stance on interest rates. If we take a look at the S&P, we have just had two really big days. If we take a look from the top and the bottom, this is about a 5.5%, 6% rally in 2 days. Okay, look, if you're bullish the market, you've loved this move. If you're bearish, you've hated this move. But let's take a look at this in the entire context of where we are. We saw a rally very similar to this back in September. It went for 4 days. It went for about 6 or 7%. And ultimately, it led to a 10% drop after that. Technically speaking, we have to take a look at this and say this is highly likely a bear rally where we're going to rally up to that 20-period moving average, maybe a little higher. Maybe we even get all the way up to 38.90 where there is some resistance at that previous low. But look, until we break above that and the moving averages cross up, we have to consider that this is still a bearish market, even though it's having a nice rally at the moment. If we come over here to the VT, the world index is even bouncing more. The weakness in the dollar is really helping this. And look, we may make it all the way up to this 85, 50, 86 area. We might make it up there, but look, it's still a bear market. We have to consider this is most likely a bear rally. However, look at where we closed today on this candle. We are very strong into the close. When we close at the top of candles, it tells us we're most likely going to go up again tomorrow. So I expect that this bear rally still has some gas left. Maybe a couple days, maybe not, but that's how I'm having to look at this market on a technical basis. If we come over here to the cryptos, this is our proprietary crypto basket, equally weighted. And what we see here is, okay, nice 2 days, but this looks even worse technically speaking. You know, we didn't have the big plunge that we had in equities, but you can see we're literally just where we were last week. We had 2 times where we got up to these levels last week. So I can't get bullish here. Look, cryptos on the short term, yes, the momentum is there. If I was a very short-term trader, I might look at going long cryptos. But until then, I need to see some trends change to where I really want to get more bullish. So looking good in the short term, I'm not convinced on the long term on cryptos. So if we take a look at where we are here, we were at a -3, which was the most negative you could get on a market. We're going to pull that back a little bit to a -2. We're getting this bounce. We'll see where this bounce goes. But at this point, we have to consider it a bear rally, that this is going to fail and the trend is going to continue. Let's take a look at what's left on the schedule for the week. We heard from the RBA this week, and we heard that the RBA surprisingly only raised rates by 25 basis points. And sure enough, the Aussie dollar sold off very hard on this less than expected rate rise. We talked about the JOLTS openings. Tonight, we have the RBNZ coming out. They are expected to raise by a 0.5 basis point as well. Now look, I think they are going to raise by 50 basis points. The economy of New Zealand is a little stronger than the economy of Australia at the moment. There's a belief that the RBA and RBNZ are not as hawkish as the FOMC. And if the FOMC raises rates a lot faster than these two countries, it's going to put a lot of pressure on their currency. And so if they have any sort of commentary on backing off of rates, you're going to see the Kiwi fall again. And then for the rest of the week, we've got employment report on Friday. We are meeting live as a firm for that, so come join us and trade that one live. Right, well, let's take a look at all these currencies, where they stand right now on the charts. 24 hours ago, this is where we stood. We said, hey, the pound is the strongest, and it's likely to be the strongest over the next 24 hours. The Swiss franc was the weakest and likely to be the weakest over the next 24 hours, followed by the yen and the dollar. Everything else was pretty much in the middle. So if we take a look at cryptos, they had a good day today. That's just all there is to say. It's a good day, 2 to 4% across the board on cryptos. If we take a look at the foreign currencies, we saw that the euro was the best performing currency today. We had the euro somewhere in the middle of the pack. We're definitely going to have to upgrade euro to more strong than we expected. But you can see we had the pound. The pound was the second strongest currency. That was our favorite currency over the past 24 hours. And we also had the yen and the dollar looking to underperform, which they absolutely did. The little bit of the surprise here, Swiss franc. Swiss franc was supposed to be the weakest currency. It really got hit hard yesterday. And so we just saw a little bit of a bounce back. We haven't recovered all that we lost on Sunday and Monday on Swiss franc. I think you can take a look at Swiss franc as a bear rally to sell into. But the Aussie Kiwi, this is a day that they should have gone higher. A risk-on day like today, up 3% across the board. This absolutely should have helped Aussie Kiwi. And again, they're in the penalty box because people are worried about their central banks. So let's take a look at these on a chart. We're going to start off with Bitcoin, and we're going to take a look at this on a 4-hour chart using our velocity scoring system, where we got RSI, parabolic SAR, and the EMA. Now, if you take a look at where we are and everything is super bullish. We've got a rising EMA with some good steepness. We've got RSI that's rising. Yes, it is above 70, but it's just telling us that it may be at the end of its run, but everything is still strong. Here's the problem. When I take a look at this over a longer period of time, all of a sudden I see, oh, we're at some real key resistance levels, and we're just right there. And I think with this RSI topped out, we're going to need to spend some time here consolidating if we are going to break out and run. If we do consolidate and break out and run, I will be very happy to be long Bitcoin. But until then, I'm not going to be chasing it. We come over here to Bitcoin Cash. Okay, we got good short-term indicators. EMA is going up. RSI is actually flattening out. So it's not as strong, but take a look. We haven't cleared out of this big resistance block yet in the 122 to 125 yet. I am not going to be the sucker that buys it at 122 when the resistance range is 122 to 125. I need to wait for that to break before I get anything going on Bitcoin Cash. Ethereum, we've talked about how Ethereum was the clear outperformer over the past 6 months, and it has been the clear underperformer for the past month. Ever since their fork, they have just been very difficult to buy. And you can see that they are not up to their resistance levels like the other two cryptos. So Ethereum is an ignore. Just go ahead and ignore it until it starts to show some relative strength. And over here to Litecoin. Okay, Litecoin is just like Bitcoin. It is right up to these levels. It's saying, okay, you know what? We're up to these levels. We've got a lot of momentum heading into it, but we've also spent a lot of energy in this run. I would like to see a consolidation, a little bit of a pullback, anything to where we gather more energy and then we break higher. So for me, I think for the first time in really a couple months, I am interested in being long the cryptos. I'm not there yet, but I've been saying for the last 2 months, I don't care about them. I'm not interested in being long cryptos. And frankly, they're probably going lower. I can no longer say that in the short term. Let's jump over to the foreign currencies. Here we have the dollar. And you can see here, this is a 4-hour chart. This is our proprietary dollar baskets, equally weighted against 7 other currencies. As you can see, it is in a downtrend. It's not a very steep downtrend. Take a look at how steep the uptrend was. Now we've got this mild downtrend going here. Okay, I'm not really loving short dollar here. I think it's a decent trade. I think it's likely going a little bit lower, but the steepness is not all that impressive to me. Again, we're trying to find the currency that's moving right now the most. And the dollar is falling, and the dollar's probably going to fall a little bit more. But the question is, can I find something that's steeper, something that's really showing me some momentum? So I'm going to jump over here to the yen, and I see even less momentum in the yen. So again, we had the big run. We're falling down, and take a look at these last 4 candles. We have just lost any momentum to the downside. We are just basing. Now look, if we base for a little bit more and then we break down, I will absolutely jump on the yen on the short side. But until then, I can't really get excited about this. This is just hanging out. Let's jump onto the Swiss franc. Now the Swiss franc was really weak at the close yesterday. You can see we had just turned down big red candles. We found a bottom here and we've had this bounce. Whenever you see something like this, there's really 2 things you have to ask yourself. Was this the bottom? Was this the bottom? And from here on out, we're going to be going up? Or is this nothing more than a bounce? And I always play these things with the trend, and the trend is lower, especially when you take a look at something like the daily chart. You can see that we started to turn down pretty significantly. So I'm looking at this saying, hey, you know what? I want to play this as a bear rally. So I do like Swiss franc to the short side. I don't think it's quite ready yet, but with a little bit more weakness, I think in the next 4 to 8 hours, I think you could potentially find an entry on some Swiss franc crosses. We will take a look at Swiss franc crosses for sure. Over to the euro. Euro looks great. Euros looked great for a long time. Ever since we turned back here on September 26th, we've had up, bases, up, pullbacks. We got up. Okay. So look, we're at the top. We're at the top just like we were a couple days ago. We need to wait for a pullback or for a base. I like euro to the long side, but it's a little extended here. If I can get a base or a pullback over the next 24 hours, I will be interested in being long in euro. But not all that much, because pound is saying, hey, I'm the place to be right now. I'm the place to be right now. Look, it's not the steepest trend we've ever seen, but it's very steady. You don't get stopped out on these kind of runs. These kind of runs are very slow and steady, and they're just very comfortable to stay in. I have no idea when this is going to end. It could have already ended, and it just didn't tell me. But the point is, I know that if I get on the pound right now, and again, maybe not right now, but if I get on the pound while it's doing this, I'm at least on the train going the right direction. It could change directions for me, but to me, pound looks like the best out here, at least as what we've checked out. So pound is at the top of my list still. It was on the top of my list 24 hours ago, and it's still on the top of my list. Let's move over to the CAD, Canadian dollar. And you can see, I'm looking at this chart, and I'm just so unimpressed with it. I'm unimpressed, I'm uninterested, because it's trying to tell me how to figure this out. Okay, there's a couple ranges in here. Maybe you do some range trading. I'm not interested, is basically what I'm saying, is that I've already looked at pound, I've already looked at euro. They look much, much better as currencies to buy than CAD. And I've seen better currencies to sell, so I'm just not going to mess with the CAD at all. Let's go over to the Aussie, and you can see the Aussie showing some weakness. We are still making some new lows. We are getting a little bounce here. I would love to be a seller on this bounce. Love to be a seller. Maybe we get up here. We'll take a look at some individual currency crosses and get some actual numbers here. But any sort of bounce on the Aussie, I'm looking to be a seller. Finishing it off on the Kiwi. You can see the Kiwi already had its bounce about 2 or 3 days ago. And now you can see we're starting to lose some momentum here. I'm just waiting for a little bit more. I'd like to cross below this parabolic SAR. I'd like to see a little bit more steepness in this EMA. But to me, Kiwi looks ready to be shorted in the next 4 to 8 hours. So as you can tell, it's pretty clear what we see on the board. Pound was strong yesterday, and it stays strong today. Now, I do have to upgrade both the cryptos and the euro. The euro is starting to look a little bit better to me, not as good as the pound. And look, the cryptos, they're running into some overhead resistance, but there's no doubt that they have positive momentum at the moment. As far as what got downgraded, Aussie Kiwi. I am actively looking for Aussie Kiwi shorts off of these bear rallies. I think you're looking to pair it up against the euro and the pound. that is the trade right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at those exact crosses. Let's take a look at Pound Aussie, Pound Kiwi, and Euro Aussie, Euro Kiwi. First one I want to take a look at is Pound Kiwi. Now, Pound was my favorite on the long side. Kiwi was my favorite on the short side. And you can see we've just had a big run here. A lot of new traders, they look at this and say, oh, we already missed it. Maybe. Maybe we have. But couldn't you have already said we missed it back here? Couldn't you have already said maybe we missed it back here? Yeah, at some point it will change. But until then, we know where the momentum is. And these trends run a lot longer and further than you will ever think. So we have no idea when the train's going to turn around, but we know for a fact what direction it's going right now. And if we come out here and take a look at the daily chart, you can see the daily chart. We have broken through a lot of resistance. We've broken through a lot of resistance in this 195 area, and we are smooth sailing. And we're getting up here to where our next real resistance here is about 204.50. We've got 450 pips in between that point. There might be a few little stops along the way, but I'm looking at this saying, hey, you know what? It's pretty clear this thing wants to go higher for the moment. Let's just simply find, okay, where is the entry? And I really like to enter after high bases. We have had a high base here. As you can see, we ran up. We hit this level, and we just traded this way. Maybe this is even more of an ascending triangle at the end here. We had a big run from 190 up to 2. We consolidated for 3 to 4 days. And now we're breaking out to the upside. To me, this is a buy right here, 20027. And I think you're looking to have a stop under this moving average somewhere around 199.60. 199.60. So I think 205 is the target on this one. Well, maybe 204.50. But that is the target here on Pound Kiwi. This is my favorite one by far. Just for fun, let's take a look at Euro Aussie. Euro Aussie is another one I like. I think the Aussie's got a little bit more bounce in it, so I don't think this one's ready quite yet, but I love this. We just made a new swing high. We're making a pullback. Any sort of strength here, I would like to buy the bounce off of this one. So looking at some targets here, maybe we go back up to 157.75. Sorry, 153.75. These would be the areas that I'd start to be looking at my shorter term technicals to see if I could take a position. To wrap this up, it looks like the equity markets still have a little bit left. As I said earlier, I have to treat this as a bear rally, that this will fail at some point and fade. But the fact that we closed on our highs today tells me we're likely to carry that strength over till tomorrow. I do think maybe later in the week, this rally starts to fade, and then I'm going to start looking at some different trades. But I think right now it's pretty clear. Pound and Euro on the long side and Aussie Kiwi on the short side. Now be careful, if you're playing Kiwi, the RBNZ rate statement is tonight. This one is the biggest mover. And what I mean by biggest mover is that the Kiwi is the least liquid currency that we trade. And so whenever news comes out and there's not a lot of liquidity, you can get some really wild movements. I highly recommend that everyone wait until after the report is out, let that freak out happen, then look to take some trades when the liquidity is more back to normal. Thanks for joining me. This is the Market Roundup. Goodbye, everybody.